Good morning to all my brothers and sisters out there. Hope you woke up this morning and prayed. I hope it's going to be a better year for you and your family. I just want you to listen to how it's good to get into a certain place at a moment, a time of reflection and meditation. I woke up this morning and I said, I got to reflect back on where it started and where it is today. So I reflect back on, first I reflect back on God. God brought me here for a reason. They brought my mother and my father together for a reason. But that reason was already in the plan before my mother and father conceived me. So I think about, why did God bring me here? And I reflect back on my mother and my father. And I reflect back on my 13 siblings. I reflect back on how we grew up. I reflect back on the house or the little shack we stayed in. And I reflect back on my life and what I went through growing up. Being in young age, almost drowned 3 times. I've been around shootout and killing as a young boy. Growing up, I reflect back, that could have been me. And I reflect about the time that I was walking downtown as a young boy, going to kill my first cousin over a girlfriend. And I thank God, nothing happened. I thank God for so many things. I can reflect back and say the what, when, the where, the why, and the how. I think it's a good time for us to not to focus on the negative things that happened in your past, the positive things, and the people who made a big difference in your life. I reflect back on all my little brothers and sisters, how we used to go work up in the bean field, Jim Viola field, and how there were many times that we was ashamed to be on the back of a truck because it seemed as though that time the bus was passing. And they saw all the airlines and the Cyprians, they saw all of us on the back of a truck, and we was trying to hide on the back of the bus. In the back of the truck, keep the kids from seeing us. But my parents, they didn't care about that. They say, well, hey, man, you're making an honest living, but they don't understand the feedback you would get when you go back to school. So I reflect back on my teachers who played a big part in my life. I reflect back on all the positive things. I can't reflect back on the negative thing, because if I reflect back on the negative thing, only my focus is going to intensify to the things that's negative. And I reflect back on how my mother went through a lot of things for me, kept getting me out of jail. Of all of her kids, I was the one that caused her, go through things. But I can reflect back on my mother saying, if it wasn't for you, where would I be? That tough love was good love. And I reflect back on the time is that when she had that major surgery, Christmas Eve, and we didn't have any food and we didn't have any toys. We didn't have any Christmas stuff because my father didn't go and pick it up on time. And I reflect back on, she begged a doctor, can you please let me out? My kids don't have any food. I'm not going to get myself. Doc said, look, well, you just got out of surgery. Please let me go home and make sure my kids got some food. Are you going to promise me that you're not going to move around? Yeah. So I guess the doctor felt sorry for her, and he let her out of the hospital, and she just got out of surgery now. So me and her got together, and I drove her to Mr. Ellick Diploma. And we knocked at his house door, and she said, Mr. Diploma, please, my kids don't have any food to eat. Can you please open your store up and let me get a little? She said, look, I'll be on in a minute. So I never will forget during that time. Mr. Diploma opened the store. And my mother knows she didn't have a lot of money, but she just wanted to get just enough food for a kid to survive until she got out. So she went and picked up 1 or 2 things. But Mr. Diploma, Ellick Diploma, start putting everything in 2 and 3 baskets. And my mother say, hey, Mr. Diploma, I can't pay for this. And he kept loading all these bags up. And she's still saying, I can't pay. So make a long story short, after everything's said and done, she said, I'll pay you soon. And he said, Miss Sarah, enjoy Merry Christmas. You don't owe me anything. I will never forget that. And we came home. We had an old fireplace, an old stove. Me and my brother, my mother went out in the wood and found that old called pine wood. And we found enough wood. We had the house warm. My mother prepared Christmas dinner. We all prayed around the table, 12 kids. And I mean, we had a joyous time. And long story short, right after that night, Christmas night, we had to take my mother back to the hospital because she had overdid in the surgery. The stitches came loose. So I reflect back on my mother. And I reflect back on the time that she got me out of jail. She said, son, you better go in the military because somebody's going to kill you or you're going to kill somebody. And I'm going to tell every boy out there, to see your mother cry, and we got 12 other sisters and you, the one that's been giving her the problem, man, that touched me. And I remember when it was. The next morning, you know, I finished high school already. I got up. I didn't tell her where I was going. I went down to New Orleans. I took the test. Passed the test, physical, doing everything the same day. And the man said, look, you can leave next week, January 9th. I can't leave January 9th because that's my birthday and that's my girlfriend. I want to spend a little time. No, that's not a good time. Can you schedule it in May? Yeah, we can do that. So, man, everything, I was so excited, man. I passed the test. I was leaving in May. So I came home and I told my mother, I said, hey, mother, you might not believe this. I'm going to join the military. She said, boy, you ain't joining the military. How can you join the military? Well, I went down to New Orleans. I passed the test. I passed the physical. She said, oh, man. She said, when you going in? I said, around about May. She said, man, that is so good. And, you know, now she's throwing me off now. So she said to me, she said, oh, by the way, that recruiter called me out of New Orleans and told me you passed the test, you passed the physical, and you wanted to leave in May, and he got a day open January the 9th, and you refused to take it. And I told him, I said, keep that day open. I'm going to send him back down there. I want him out of here January the 9th. Came, and I looked at her, and she said, you go back down there. You leaving January 9th. Now, I'm mad. I'm leaving my girlfriend on my birthday. I'm saying, now, wait a minute. She better be glad that I went down there. Now, I'm saying that she better be glad. I better be glad that she made me go back down there. So I went and signed, and January the 9th, and I left. Joined the military. I reflect back. Made me a military police. And I reflect back. Basic training. AZR in Texas, the military weapons school. And then when I left from there and I went to Vandenberg Air Force Base, California, within a year, I had to go back to the AZR school down in Texas to learn combat training because I didn't realize where I was getting ready to go to. So I went down and we got on this C-130 and guess what? Nobody knew where we was going. Had our uniform on, full gear, and we landed in NKP, Thailand, non-Phnom. And we jumped off that one C-130. And again, I'm just reflecting back. And let me tell you, it's the most important thing that I got to reflect back on my first year in Southeast Asia. Working the perimeter, military police, I worked in bunkers and worked in towers, trying to secure the perimeter because we had the North Vietnamese on the other side of the river, which you can take a rock. And if you're strong enough, that's just how close the separation, the Mekong River from Thailand. So I worked the bunkers that night, get a phone call 3 months after I got over there. Hey, you got to go back home. Why? Your father just passed away. Now, that was one of the most painful things in the world for me, to go back home and And the first thing that I said, I bet you, is my father. I don't know why that picture. And he said, "It's your dad." They put me on the plane, flew me back, and that's one of the most painful and long trips I've ever had. And I was coming back, and I remember the students, man, she was consoling me because, man, I'm thinking about, man, my mother, my sister, my brother, and I'm thinking that I just lost my father. So came home, went back. This is where the terror started. I lived along the Mekong River. I was a military police. And it's one of the things that has haunted me today. We was bombing North Vietnamese, and there are thousands and thousands of people along the Mekong River. And I'm reflecting back on all these people that we was bombing the other side, and they begging to get on the other side. Some of them was blowed up and everything. And I've dealt with many years, and I'm still dealing with it. So I seen all these little boats and ships out there in the middle of the Mekong River trying to rescue people to bring them on this side. The good thing, bad, saddest thing about it, I went down and I helped them try to load people just to get them on this side to where to go back. And the saddest thing in my life, I've seen that when it came to this side, if you didn't have an ID card or if you didn't have an identification card, they're going to send you back over. And people was begging, how do you have time to pick up an ID card when you're getting bombed in a village right across? I mean, it was one of the saddest moments that I dealt with, and I'm still understanding thousands and thousands of people, little babies, kids, and people over there we done blowed up North Vietnamese. Now, the only exit route they had was near the river. That's the only exit route they had during the river. So that happened over there. And so again, that played a big part in my life for many years, and I still reflect. And I reflect back when I was over there in Thailand, one of my best friends, he blew his head off at the armory. His name was James McKnight. Research it. That armory was named James McKnight. And this was a good, close friend of mine. He went downtown, and some kind of way the Thais beat him up, and they left a lot of damage to him. So therefore, he couldn't go out and work the perimeter. So they allowed him to issue out the weapons. And so, make a long story short, we came in to turn our weapons in, and all of a sudden, they said, "Man, James blew his head off." Man, that touched me so bad. So again, I'm reflecting back on both good and bad as to it could have been me. So all these things going down in my life, and I'm thinking about why have God saved me? And I've been around killing all my life. I left there with the England Air Force Base and left there and came right back to NKP. That was 1974, 1975. We was closing down the North Vietnamese. So that's when the war ended. So we had to go over there and account for all of these equipment that we had out there. And to make a long story short, and during that time I was over there, I was a military police. And I was in the SPS squadron. And so that was during the day that there was a deployment. There was about 40 soldiers or 50, I forget exactly what it is. And they was deploying, and the plane blew up on them. And I say that could have been me on that plane. So all these things went down when I went back over. And then I came back to Parksville Air Force Base. And, I'm getting a little ahead beside myself. But once I finished basic training, HCR, let me show you how God, I just finished basic training. I just went to military training school. And they gave me 10 days prior to me going back out to California. So that was on a Friday, I believe. I arrived in New Orleans at around about 8:30 or 9:30 that morning. They gave me 10 days to go enjoy your family before you go out to California, Vandenberg Air Force Base. So I showed up at the airport, took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Got here around about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And talked to my family. And everybody kept saying, "Look at that boy, got a bald head, that big head wrestler." And everybody in the military get a bald head, you know what I mean? And so my mother said to me, she said, "Boy, what you gonna be doing in the military?" I said, I'm a military police. And she said, boy, they must be harder for police. And I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to say. All the trouble that you've been in with the police, now you're a police officer? Yep. She said, I'm proud of you, boy. Whatever you do, don't come back here and get into trouble. You got 10 days here. Now, what did happen? I show you how things happen. I called one of my best friends, Jerry Campbell, and I said, meet me over at 497 West Railroad Avenue, the Fig Alley. We met over there. 5 minutes after we arrived, we were walking in the little alley, and Todd came out. I knew Todd and Jerry was not going to see each other. Talk to each other because they were seeing the same lady. So as Todd said, man, I'm so glad, man, I miss you at the steel mill, and I'm proud of you, Clayton. Man, join the military. I'm gonna come by and see you right before you leave. All right. As he turned around, Jerry Campbell punched him in the head. Make a long story short, Todd turned around, and me and Jerry right there. Turned around, he shot 6 times at Jerry, 497 West Railroad Avenue. 6 times. Jerry laid down like he was dead, and I just caught a ricochet. That's why you see my eyebrow like this. I caught a ricochet. He wasn't trying to kill me because it was that conflict between him and Jerry over an older woman. So he ran around to the police station and said, look, I just killed a man. I'm sitting up here on the side of the wall. I'm still terrified by what went down. And Jerry jumped up and said, man, look, man, you know what? That Negro can't shoot. That nigga missed me. I'm thinking this ain't real. Jerry laid down like some Western movie, like he was dead. When the police them came around and said, where is he? And he said, where is who? Jerry said, you need to tell that Negro he need to learn how to shoot. That nigga didn't even hit me. Now, Todd was in the back of the police cruiser, and make a long story short, Todd said, I can't believe this. Came back home that Friday, told my mother what happened. She said, you better get out of here right now. I don't need you around here 10 days. I don't need you. That could have been you, could have got killed on a couple hours after you got here. Get you a ticket and get out of here. I found me a flight. I left that Sunday. I goes out to Vandenberg Air Force Base. Long story short, 3 months later, I'm having a nightmare. I'm thinking about, hey, man, wow, that could have been me. I called my mother 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, Mother, I'm sorry about what happened. And the first thing she said to me, she said, boy, who just called you? I said, nobody. I said, Mother, I'm in the hallway. Nobody got my number. I'm in a payphone. She said, say you swear to God ain't nobody call you. I said, Mother, are you asleep? She said, do it sound like I'm asleep? And I'm thinking what she's trying to say. She said, Jerry Campbell just got killed about 3 or 4 hours ago. Todd killed him this time. Now I'm having a nightmare about what happened 3 months ago. I'm calling my mother at 3 something that morning, and she's telling me Jerry just got killed 3 or 4 hours ago, and I'm having a nightmare. That's my journey. So understand, 497 West Railroad Avenue, Independence, Louisiana. So go back. I was getting beside myself initially, but again, I went when I left NKP. Then I went to Barksdale Air Force Base and stayed there. I got out of the military police stuff, and I began to work in the administration, passing ID. And so that's where I met my wife, and that's where I got married at Barksdale Air Force Base. So when I left there, I went to Italy. Man, Italy, I must say, that's one of the best times in my life. You understand? Aviano Air Base, Italy. That's where my whole life changed at. I started track and field. I played on all the sports teams over there. I learned the game racquetball. I learned how to exercise because I was the general. Lester P. Brown said to me, he said, "Sir, I need somebody to teach an overweight class. Can you do it for me?" Well, I couldn't tell the general. No, I said, I don't know nothing about it. She said, look, I'm going to give you 2 weeks. Come up with some kind of routine. I'm going to have everybody here that's 5 pounds beyond their weight. They're going to attend. It's mandatory. So I said, okay. Gave me 2 weeks. I started doing calisthenics, jumping jacks, started doing leg lift. And that Monday, the whole gym full up with all these military guys overweight. They had to sign in because General said it's mandatory. Even if you're a commander, you better be there to sign in. So General showed up the first day, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He showed up again Wednesday to make sure everybody signed in. So some of them just got slick. They done came and signed in and went in the sauna. But they didn't realize that the general was there looking. And if he was in that sauna, guess what? You're in trouble. But half of them couldn't have walked that Wednesday. They looking at me, giving me a dirty face like, hey, man, look what you're doing to us, man. You know, but they had to be out there, and some of them couldn't even do half the exercise. So that's how my career started. Long story short, I was in a major car wreck in Italy. One of the worst car wrecks that you're probably going to ever witness. If you saw the car, you would say there was no way no one lived. I hit a tree, head on, went airborne. Landed way off in the woods where you couldn't even see down in the woods. The only thing that saved me is a little light. The engine was thrown out the car. The two headlights were touching each other. The top was taken off. The steering wheel was broke. And I'm jammed in the back like a, man, I was bleeding to death. But I'm going to tell you this right now. When God is for you, boy, you better believe it. The only thing that saved me, do you know that little dome light in the top of the car? It was still connected to some kind of way to that battery because everything else was disintegrated. That little light saved my life. There was a little lady. If any of y'all know her name, please tell her to contact me. Her father's name was Jesse James from Louisiana. I think her name was Stephanie or something like that. We worked in the Civil Engineering Squadron. Her father's name was Jesse James. I wish I can find her, his daughter, because you don't find a lot of black men named Jesse James. He was from Louisiana. He had a daughter. And that young lady, she was passing through, and she saw a light way off in the woods. And her and her boyfriend was passing by, and she said, I ain't never seen a light way down in the woods. So the boyfriend said, man, that ain't nothing but an Italian farmer over there just shopping. So all of a sudden, they go, I seen the light, they slowed up, and I said, man, ain't no way they're going to see me way down these woods. But anyway, in about 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, that same car must have went to Vion and turned, and she said, go back. I believe I ain't never seen no car, no light. And I thank God that God told that young girl to go back. When they came back and turned around, they saw where the destruction started at. They looked way down in the woods and they saw that got to be a car wreck. Now they made their way, I thank God, look, they made their way down in those woods. It took a long time. That's how far they had to walk. And when they walked down and they said, oh my God, Sergeant Arline, she knew who I was. He knew who I was. And they said, man, we got to, they didn't have no cell phone during that time. They got me out of the car. I was bleeding to death. And I was passing out. They got me out of those woods, put me in the car, and all of a sudden they rushed me to Aviana Air Base Hospital. And at once they got to the gate and said, man, we got to, look, please, we got to get Sergeant Arline to the emergency room. They got me to the emergency room, and then called all the doctors in, and all the doctors said, well, we don't have no doctors here to perform this type of surgery. They call in a medevac. A medevac is a plane that takes you from point A to point B for medical emergency. They called the medevac the next morning. They medevac me to Wiesbaden or Stuttgart, one of the two, to the one of the big medical facilities for the veterans. I was in bad shape. They medevac me there, and I stayed there for 2 or 3 weeks. They banded me up. I had chest had swelled up, 35 stitches under my chin and my back. I mean, and they put all these different braces around me, and I stayed there, and I had a time to reflect. Man, I could have got killed. Now you must understand. I'm going to tell you the truth. When they released me out of the hospital, brought me back to Aviana on a medevac, all of a sudden, the police were there waiting for me, trying to figure out what went down. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell you exactly. They say, man, look, we're trying to find out what happened. I said, there was a red car coming towards me, and I had to. Now, I'm lying at the top of my head. It was coming towards me. I had to duck. He said, a red car was coming to. He said, did you get the license plate number? Yes. I say, the license plate number was U11327. That's the license plate number. Now, I'm lying. How did that number came so natural to me? Because every military over there, they got a license plate number. That was my license plate number, U113. My car was red. So they got the report. Now they putting out all these MVP. We looking for a red car with U11327. Now you got to understand, they hit this guy head on, caused an accident. They looking all over the database. And I'm going to say this to you. There was a young man they called Overstreet. He was the investigator for the military. So he walked up to me and said, look, let me ask you something, boy. He said, you lying between your teeth. I said, what you talking about, homeboy? He said, how in the hell is a red car coming towards you and you had the opportunity to get this license plate? And that is your own license plate. Now, I know you're lying, but I ain't. Look, I'm just letting you know. You got to come up with something better than that, because you ran into yourself. Man, I'm going to lie to you. I'll never forget that. Them people out there looking for a license plate number, not realizing it's a military license plate number. I left, and once I got out of the hospital, this old lady, must have been 87 years old. I lived in her apartment. She came over every morning. She made sure that she knew I was in bad shape. I was all banded up. Saved me. She bought me all kind of fruits and made sure that she had a key to my door. I didn't have nothing to worry about this old lady. So I lived on a mountain road at Aviana Air Base. Now, you must understand, that old lady took care of me all the time as a mother. Long story short, once I got well, I began to continue to teach my fitness. All of a sudden, one day, an old lady was outside of my door. And she said, I'm looking for an American that wants a bedroom set. I'm giving it to her. So I just had began to learn how to speak Italian, because these old ladies taught me how to speak. I think, where you live at? She said, I live up the streets. And if you can just let me know, I'll give it to them. So I contact one of my buddies. We went and picked it up. Long story short, I forgot about the old lady. She came back down again. She kept saying, I'm looking for a black man, and I want to give him something. So she bought me some cheese and stuff. And the long story short, I adopted this lady as my mother. I took her to the market every morning before work. On Saturday morning, she all showed me off, said, this is my black son. And everybody looking at this woman said, wait a minute, you don't know nothing about this soldier. And all of a sudden, I didn't realize who this lady were. And so I know people kept watching her. They couldn't believe that this woman here is with this black man. She called him her son. Long story short, I went and dropped off, or picking up, dropping off, and this next door neighbor said, "Hey, sir, what's your name?" I said, "Sergeant Orline. I work right down in civil engineering." She said, "Do you know who this lady is?" I said, "No." She said, "This lady here is one of the richest women. Her son is the owner of the Italian airplane that flies from Rome to New York. She don't trust nobody. We just figured that we needed." Her son told us to ask you. And she said, "Look, Miss Cherry, man," she called the son, and they started writing my mother letters in English, just telling us, "Look, this is my son. Don't worry about him. I'm going to take care of him. I'm going to take care of him." My mother kept those letters for many years. Long story short, before this old lady passed away, no, she didn't pass away. I apologize. I do apologize. She came to me one morning. She said, "Like, I got to go leave, and I'm going to stay with my son because I can no longer stay here." And she contacted her son, and her son came down, and he met me. He said, "Man, my mother thinks a lot of you. But as my mother, I want to come down and find out, who the person she's got all the trust in." He said, "Thank you for taking care of my mother. But if you ever wanted a plane to the state, I own the Italian in Rome." So I met him. He was comfortable with me. And so the old lady said, "I got to go and stay with my son." Man, that old lady, we cried together. She gave me paintings, gave me some painting worth a lot of money, gave me some things. She said, "I want you to have it." I never felt so hurt because this is a woman that I felt she got close to her. And make a long story short, I had the best time of my life doing the Italian people. I ran track and field all over Europe. I coached the track and field all over Europe. I played sport all over Europe. So I'm reflecting back on every good thing in my life, and I thank God for every day during my journey. I could never stop thanking God because the road that I traveled, and I'm still here. All my friends that I grew up with, it's only maybe 3 or 4 that I know that is living. Their life got cut short at an early age. I'm reflecting back on my life. My life could have got cut short at an early age. I could have drowned, almost drowned 3 times during my childhood. A lot of things could have happened to me. But I will say this. When God got a mission for you, ain't nothing going to happen to you. Believe me, nothing going to happen to you. Because if you know my life, accidents start happening in Thailand. I'm around all of this type of destruction. Then I came back to Hanscom Air Force Base in Massachusetts. That's where my education career started. I just need to share this with you before I get ahead of time. The weakness that I had when I joined the military was reading and writing, comprehension. So the military saw favors in me, so they sent me to a reading comprehension course because they knew that I was a good worker, but I was lacking in reading skills. And thank God they caught it at an early age, because when you get those CDCs, you got about 6 or 7 books that you got to complete within a short period of time. So even though a hands-on, but you have to turn these answers and you find out you got all the time in the world, but you better make sure you read and understand everything that you putting out there. So that helped me out a lot. And all my friends, I used to tell them, say, "Hey man, what you want me to get you for a Christmas present?" And I used to tell them, say, "Man, just give me an English book." "Are you serious?" "Yep. Just buy me an English book." And it's funny to say it. That may be why I'm reading so much now, because I didn't do anything in school. I think I graduated with a C plus average, but I could have done a lot better. But it's the environment that caused you to either go forward or go backward. And I thank God that he saw something in me in talking to my mother, making her son go in the military and make something out of himself. My mother, I can't say it enough. She was tough, but I can thank God for that tough love. I thought I was the guinea pig in the house, but I was the guinea pig that always was in trouble. You understand? Got me out of jail. But look what God have done for me. I don't know what he's done for you, but I can tell you what he done for me. He done brought me from a mighty long ways. Many times I've escaped death. Multiple car wrecks, shootout, drowning, around people that is dying by the thousand. And I'm here. That's not time for reflection where I was, where I'm at today. Once I retired military, I ran ROTC at Putnam High School. Putnam High School, I want to thank you for the time that I spent there, because that made a big difference in my life. Working with kids from 1995 to 2015, there is not a kid at Putnam High School or the other school that didn't know who I was, because my joy and my pleasure was to see those kids every day. And a lot of my students today is lawyers, doctors, and scientists. And they call me and just to say, thank you. Thank you, Sergeant. You was a good teacher. That is priceless to me. I had a student just visit me just after 20-something years. He's a state police. He's a pilot. He have all kind of things thanking me. Got another mini student, Chris Torres, Chief of Police, Westover Air Force Base. We have Gail Gibson, all of those guys on my drill team. And guess what? They're exceeding above and beyond. And I just need you to understand, life is a gift. Learn to accept it. Life is a journey. Learn to complete it. You must understand, where there is a way, there is a will. But I must share this last thing. This is important to me. Our children is the most important thing in my life. I don't care what race, religion, sex, or national origin. Little children are angels. They are innocent. They don't know this world like you know this world. We need to teach these youngsters about life and life itself. We need to teach these kids about God. Who is God? How did they get here? We need to teach these kids biblical principles, because you must understand, if you don't allow your kids to go to church and do everything that you are doing, the world is going to get worse and worse. Your family is going to suffer more and more. You don't go to church. Your kids don't go to church. You don't have prayer meetings inside your house. If you don't go to church, why don't you just pray together in the house? Eventually, that prayer is going to strengthen you and your family. You don't care about biblical principles until something going to happen in one of your kids or your grandmother, and now all of a sudden, God, I'm going to pray. Don't let the ship sink and then start praying. Start praying before the ship sinks. Our young kids are growing up in a world of uncertainty because of our failure in life. That's why our kids are failing. We done got away from God. That's the worst thing. And we're dealing with the world. Look how many kids out here going through all type of mental illness, overweight, don't dropping out of school because there is a parent that don't care about their kid. And a lot of the parents are bringing these kids in this world and say, you on your own after 1 or 2 years old. They start picking up bad habits. You start beating on the kid. The kid become afraid of you. You understand? Charity begins at home. Stop blaming society on your failure. We need to set the future for this young generation because we're not going to be here always. But at least if we begin to start planting the seed now for make a better world for our young generation. But right now, we are teaching our young kids all the wrong thing because we're trying to deal with the world. The world is what's going to get you in trouble. God's going to save you. I don't need to continue to say that. I say to you, these little babies, they're innocent. Look how they go to school. Little things. If you are a man or a woman or whoever you think you are, if you don't have some type of emotional being for these little babies, you're not a man and you're not a woman. You're not even worth living for. If you cannot look at these little babies and say they little angels, they looking for protection. It ain't because, well, it's only a white baby. That's all I care about. It's a black baby. I don't care what kind of baby it is. When I see little babies, let me tell you something, man, my heart start rejoicing. These are little angels that's coming into this world. I'm going to say to all you men and women out there, whether you like it or not, when you don't do your job, the kid's not going to do their job. Monkey see, monkey do. Let's make a future for these kids. Let's help make a better society for these kids. But if you continue to keep doing the same thing you are doing and you expecting a different outcome, you crazy as hell. I care about you. I care about the future, but I also care about what those said the Lord. I shared my life with you. I'm here for a reason. Those who have passed on was here for a reason for the season. I'm going to do what God telling me to do. Talk to his people. Enlighten them about the importance of establishing a relationship with the Almighty. If you don't have a relationship with God, guess what? Don't worry about going to church for a front. You're going straight to hell like everybody else. Because God knows your heart, he knows my heart, he knows what we're thinking, he knew us before we even was born. Now, if you look on the biblicals, how can God know us before we was born? If you don't understand it now, maybe you might want to research it. In the beginning of life was the Word. And who was the Word? The Word was God. God created everything above and beyond. He created every living plant, animal, human. We was chosen special. He made us in his image. People, there is reason why those scriptures are printed in the Bible. It is a guide. It is a radar. It is a laser teaching you how to survive. Satan is on the other side. God going to teach you how to survive under his word. But if you are ignorant to the laws, you're going to suffer. gravely. I'm not trying to tell you what to do and how to do it. Reflection. And I just need to say this to you and to all of my friends out there. I taught Sunday school yesterday, and believe me or not, the greatest joy that I felt yesterday, that seeing those little kids, and they was waiting. They know everybody that comes in there. They know me. You know how they know me? Because I have fun and I spoil those kids. But as long as I get what I want out of them, they will be rewarded. They know. Hey, Mr. Erline, hey, we miss you. You know, hey, I already know the game, because then they start looking. If I got a bag, their mind is on that bag. And that's all. And I got to put the bag on top of the shelf. And guess what? That's where all the eyes goes, on the top of the shelf, because they know there's something in there. But the way I go by, hey, look, if you want to, what's in that bag, I don't want nobody to be acting up. I expect everybody to pay attention. Now, do I make myself clear? Yes, and believe me or not, they are little kids. Some of them are little anxious to get up and walk around, but they're not problem, but they're just kids. They just want to be talked to. They want to feel special. But the way I do it, I get all of them involved. I don't care if they don't know the answer, but they're going to get rewarded. And we work together as unisons in the class. And believe me, people, if you've never had an opportunity, go and work with them little babies. The only school that I would substitute in is elementary, because those are the little babies that need to feel that they are secure and feel that they are accomplishing something. That's the only schools that I go teach ROTC at Hammond High School. But if they need a sub, then believe me, I can have a full-time job if I really wanted to. But my job is to, whenever I want to work, I just go and teach little babies, little kids, and to show them that there is a way about life, that life is such a loving thing. Look at these little babies. Look at these little kids. Look how they're growing up. The only way that they're going to learn through life, you got to teach them. Teach them about the goodness about life. Don't teach them about hatreds and who to love and who not to love. Teach them to love all God's children. Because when it's all said and done, we are all God's children. Reflect back on your life. Reflect back on the people that have played a big part in your life. Reflect back on how far God has brought you. Reflect back on many things. But I want you to understand, I want you to do one thing and one thing only. Thank God for who you are and who you are trying to become. You must become a child like God. You must think the way God thinks. Nobody's perfect. We all fall short of the glory. But it's one thing that I will say to you, and I appreciate you listening. But if you only know my life and what I've been through with, it's only God that brought me through. If you ever get an opportunity, look on Amazon or call me and look at the book that I wrote. You understand? Grew up in the deep South and saved by many angels. That's it. And the one that I'm getting ready to put out in the future, the risk factors that is associated with heart disease. And I want everybody to understand that God is good. God is everywhere. God is with you, and God would always be with you. But we need to change our way of thinking. We need to make a better world for these young kids. We're not setting a good example. Parents, don't bring kids in this world if you're not going to love them and teach them well. I know sometimes we have generational curses, but that is not an excuse to degrade your kids. Your kids are human beings. They need to be loved. Just like God loved the world, he sacrificed his only beloved son for our sin. We must learn to love each other as brothers and sisters, regardless of race, religion, sex, and national origin. Again, until next time, reflect back on your life. It's a new year. I'm going to say this to you. I'm not telling you what to do. God and your health should be a priority. Your health is your wealth. Ask God to help you along the way because you're in a journey. Start today. Start taking care of your body. Thank God for your body. But if you don't take care of it, it won't take care of you because the world is going to destroy your body by the way the world thinks. I'm going to close out by saying this to all my brothers and sisters out there. God is real. May God bless you and keep you until we meet again. Start praying today. Don't wait for tomorrow because tomorrow is not promised. Thank you, Lord, for allowing me to deliver this message to all my brothers and sisters. That's me exactly. All my brothers and sisters. I pray that you have a prosperous year. I pray that you wake up in the morning and at night, talk to God about your weakness and your strength. You're nothing you can share with him that he don't already know. Thank you for listening. May God bless you and your family. Adios.